There's a big question out there that begs to be answered, and that is the relevance of the songwriter in the age of AI. And I recently watched a video from Rick Beato, who I love. I think he does some really great stuff, but I think he gets it completely wrong. I think he takes the wrong approach to it. He experiments with it and, does a cursory, look at AI and AI development tools, but I think, he kind of misses the boat out there. And that's his video, which we'll link to at the end of this video. Will these new AI tools make songwriters irrelevant in 2025? And that begs the big question out there. And I want to talk about some of the things that I do with AI. I think it's a great tool. It's almost like talking about radiation. Everyone's afraid of it to a certain degree at a certain age. And yet radiation has its place in the world, X-rays, curing cancer, that sort of thing. But the question, I think the big question is this, whether AI can truly be creative. And I want to dig into the science of this. And I got a little help from AI itself as we do a deep dive, kind of like fighting fire with fire. And you're going to hear a Spotlight on Sound podcast. And I went and I used a Notebook LM from Google, which is fantastic. I'm going to jump to that and just show you what I used to do that. And it was really kind of wild. This is a Notebook LM. Okay, if you haven't heard about it, it gives you the ability to pull in all these different sources, whether it's websites, whether it is YouTube videos. And for me, it's been a great tool to help micro-learning, which is what I do on my commute to work. And there's an interesting button up here called Discover, where you can click that button and type anything in as far as, hey, I'm looking for these resources to talk about whatever. And I really got into AI, the different music platforms, copyright law, and the creative potential. My argument is that AI does not have empathy, is not self-aware, and lacks imagination, which makes us all human. Anyway, let's get right into it. Check out this AI podcast, if you will, and some of the quirky stuff as it creates two people having a conversation based on all these resources. Hey, check it out. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. You may hate me for using AI and creating a podcast. You may love it. I think you'll learn something, as I always like to do. And this is all about music discovery. So I'm Steve Yusko from the Long Island Sound. Check out this deep dive on AI and the potential to write music. I don't think it's going to make any songwriter irrelevant. Just saying. All the love to you, Rick Beato. Really enjoy your show. Check it out.
It's kind of hard to ignore just how fast AI is moving these days.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, think about Demis Hassabis, right? The guy behind DeepMind. He just got a Nobel Prize and a knighthood.
Wow, yeah. That says a lot.
It really does. It just kind of underscores how central AI is becoming, not just in tech circles, but everywhere.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty much what we're diving into today, looking at where AI is right now and where it seems to be heading. We've got some really interesting stuff, including Hassabis' own thoughts on where things are going, and also a look at AI music generation, which is surprising.
Right, and keeping up with all this, it can feel like a full-time job, can it?
Totally.
So our goal here really is just to boil it down. What actually matters?
Exactly.
We've gone through these sources to pull out the key stuff, what AI can do now, what's maybe coming soon, and some of the bigger questions it raises.
The essentials, basically.
Yeah, the essentials, trying to give you those insights without getting totally bogged down in the weeds.
Okay, perfect. So let's start with DeepMind then, and the big one, AGI, Artificial General Intelligence.
Right.
Something that really jumped out at me listening to Hassabis was his reason for doing all this. It doesn't sound like it's just about building cool tech. It seems much more fundamental. Like, he's driven by these deep questions about the universe, consciousness, reality.
Interesting.
And he sees AI as, like, the ultimate tool to actually make progress on those big questions.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you can kind of see how that core motivation, that drive to understand fundamental stuff, would shape how DeepMind approaches things, right?
Also so.
Well, it's not just about making a system that does a task better or faster. It's maybe about building something that can genuinely help us figure out the really big mysteries.
Right. A tool for discovery.
Exactly.
And he's really clear about the speed of it all. He says it's incredibly fast and moving on an exponential curve. He talks about all the attention, the money, the smart people flooding into the field. That's what's fueling it.
Yeah, you definitely feel that acceleration. It seems different this time.
It does. And connecting that speed to something real, Project Astra comes up.
Yes, Astra.
This seems like a pretty concrete example of that fast progress. It's an AI companion that can see, hear, talk about stuff around it.
Right, interpreting the world visually in real time.
Yeah.
That's a big leap, isn't it? Beyond just text.
Totally. And the examples were pretty cool. Like, they showed it paintings it hadn't seen before. A Thomas Hart Benton, an El Greco, and Edward Hopper, and it identified them.
Okay, impressive recognition.
But it wasn't just naming them. It seemed to get the feeling. Like, with Hopper's automat, Astra called the woman pensive and contemplative.
That's pretty nuanced. Captures the mood.
Yeah. And then it got even weirder, or maybe more interesting.
Go on.
Astra actually made up a little story about the woman, called her Eleanor, said she was in a diner feeling melancholy.
Wow, okay. Creative storytelling now, too.
Right. But then the interaction itself was fascinating. Apparently, Astra paused and then sort of apologized, said something like, "Sorry if my tone came across that way."
Whoa. Self-awareness about its communication style.
Kind of seemed like it. That real-time reaction, the story, being sensitive to the chat, it's pretty remarkable stuff.
It really is. And it leads into this crucial point Hassabis makes about how these things learn.
Right. The emergence idea.
Exactly. That new abilities can just emerge from the training data. They build the basic structure, but the AI figures out new skills itself.
Which is incredible, but also a bit unsettling.
How do you mean?
Well, if these systems can go beyond what they were designed for, and we don't always know how or what they know.
Yeah, that's the transparency challenge, isn't it? The explainability problem. As they get more complex and skills just appear from the learning process, it gets harder and harder to track why they do what they do or how they know what they know.
It's like this amazing capability mixed with a bit of a black box.
That's a good way to put it. A mix of immense power and some unpredictability.
And DeepMind's Gemini model, it's not just about seeing and hearing, right? It's designed to act, too.
Right. Booking tickets, shopping online, taking actions in the world.
That feels like a really big step towards that AGI goal, towards something with genuinely flexible, human-like smarts.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And Hassabis thinks the timeline could be pretty quick.
Yeah. What's he saying?
He's talking about AGI, a system with really deep understanding across loads of areas, becoming part of everyday life maybe in the next 5 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years, wow.
And then even more advanced stuff by 2030.
That image he mentioned, Astra built into eyeglasses, that makes it feel very close, doesn't it?
It really does. An AI constantly seeing your world, interacting with it.
And it's not just surface stuff.
Yeah.
Remember the Cold Drops Yard example? Astra didn't just identify the place. It knew the history of Victorian coal warehouses and even understood the environmental impact back then.
Yet that level of context is significant.
Yeah.
It suggests these AI systems could have this vast knowledge base, history, culture, the physical world just instantly available.
Amazing.
And then there's the robotics work.
Right, he talked about that too.
The example with the robot understanding vague instructions about colored blocks that shows embodied intelligence. Perceiving, reasoning, acting physically based on fuzzy human commands. He expects a breakthrough moment there in the next couple of years.
Humanoid robots doing useful things.
Seems to be the goal.
Okay, so inevitably this brings up the consciousness question. Self-awareness.
The big one.
What's Hassabis's take?
Well, his current view is, no, these systems aren't self-aware or conscious.
Yeah.
Not yet, anyway.
But he thinks it's possible.
He acknowledges it could potentially arise implicitly as they get more complex. He mentioned understanding self and other as maybe being a step towards it.
Okay.
And then there's that really mind-bending idea. Even if a machine did become self-aware, would we even recognize it? Because it's silicon, not carbon like us.
Yeah.
Its substrate is totally different.
Huh. So our whole definition of consciousness is based on Us. Biology.
Pretty much. If something else becomes conscious, it might look completely alien to us. We might miss it entirely because we're looking for something human-like.
Yeah, that's a lot to think about. But he also talks about current limits, right? AI isn't perfect.
Definitely. He points out that he hasn't seen an AI just spontaneously ask a truly new out-of-the-blue question, or come up with a totally original hypothesis without some kind of prompt or prior thought driving it. He talks about a lack of genuine curiosity right now.
And maybe imagination, intuition.
Yeah, those seem to be areas still developing, though he does predict more imagination coming soon. It highlights that gap between processing information and maybe true human creativity or inquisitiveness.
But then you look at something like AlphaFold.
Right, the protein structure prediction.
That was a massive win for DeepMind. Taking something that took scientists years and cracking it in, what, a year?
Yeah, a huge acceleration. The impact on biology, on medicine, it's potentially enormous.
Absolutely. It really shows how AI can turbocharge scientific discovery.
And Asabas is clearly optimistic about that, talking about revolutionizing drug development, cutting timelines from years down to months, maybe weeks.
He even mentioned potentially curing all diseases with AI eventually.
Yeah, a very ambitious vision.
And this idea he has of radical abundance.
Yeah.
AI eliminating scarcity.
The utopian view, almost.
Yeah.
But obviously, alongside that huge potential, there are risks.
Of course. Big ones.
He mentions the worry about misused bad actors getting hold of powerful AI.
Always a concern.
And the challenge of control.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make sure these increasingly autonomous systems stay aligned with human values, keep them within safe guardrails?
Especially if they become super intelligent.
Exactly. And there's the concern that the race for AI dominance, as he puts it, could push companies or countries to cut corners on safety.
Yeah, that makes sense. Which highlights the need for international cooperation, presumably.
Definitely. He stresses that.
And the idea of teaching AI morality, that came up too.
Yeah, he suggested it might be possible, like teaching a child using demonstration and instruction.
Interesting analogy. But complex, surely. Whose morals do you teach? How do you even do that technically?
Right. It throws up huge philosophical and technical questions.
Yeah.
It's not straightforward at all.
So, wrapping up the DeepMind part, he basically says, AI starts as amazing tools, enhancing what we do. But AGI, when it arrives, changes everything, fundamentally. We'll need new ways of thinking about ourselves, about the world.
It really feels like the tech is maybe outpacing our philosophical understanding right now. We need to catch up.
Okay, so that's a glimpse into DeepMind's world, the push for AGI. Very future-focused.
Yeah, big picture stuff.
Now, let's pivot. Let's look at AI hitting the creative world, specifically music.
Okay, a different angle entirely.
We've got insights here from Rick Beato, the musician and YouTuber. He's been looking at AI music generators and the whole copyright mess.
Right. And this is interesting because it contrasts with the science focus. How is AI impacting art and the rules around art?
Exactly. And the starting point is this recent U.S. Copyright Office report.
Oh, yes, I saw that.
It basically says, if something is fully generated by AI with no real human creative input in translating an idea into the final thing, it doesn't get copyright.
Right. You need that human authorship, that fixed, tangible expression guided by a person.
And Rick Beato actually testified to Congress about this. He's firmly against giving copyright to purely AI-made stuff.
Okay, so he's taking a stance.
Yeah. And then he actually tries out some of these platforms. Yeah. He mentions Suno, Udio, Eureka, but focuses on Muria and Suno in his test.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, his first observation, which he kind of tests out, is that these things seem weirdly good at country music. Urea especially.
Huh? Country music. Any idea why?
He sort of suggests maybe it's because country often follows more predictable patterns harmonically and structurally, maybe easier for the AI to replicate.
Could be. Interesting.
So he plays a generated pop country track from Murea called Holding On to Love.
And that easy.
How was it? It sounded, well, pretty much like a generic pop country song you might hear on the radio.
Okay, so passable.
Yeah. And he uses the feature to create similar tracks, but he notes the variations feel a bit limited compared to what a human would do.
Oh, okay. Less creative range.
And he picks up on some technical glitches, calls it weird phasing or aliasing, especially on a synth guitar sound. Says it sounds fake.
Right. So it gets the structure, maybe the vibe, but lacks that organic quality, the sonic nuances of real instruments in human performance.
Seems like it. And when he tries other genres on Muria heavy rock, something called indie romantic, he's not impressed at all. uses words like cheesy, terrible, crap.
Okay. Doesn't hold back.
Nope. He really disliked the vocals, especially. Said they sounded synthetic, no real emotion.
Yeah, vocals seem like a really tough nut for AI to crack convincingly across different styles. The human voice is just so complex.
Totally. But then he switches over to Suno.
Okay, different platform.
And his reaction is completely different.
How so?
He goes to their trending tab where you see stuff other users have made.
Yeah.
And the prompts people are using to generate these songs are incredibly specific.
Like a
Okay, get this. Female vocalist, deconstructed slowcore, or cloud rap, tech house, smooth dreamy vocals, heavy reverb.
Wow, that's detailed.
Right. Another one, dream pop, gothic folk, lo-fi haze, breathy and intimate female vocal ambient pad, slow chord tremolo guitar, minor key.
People are really learning how to direct these things, aren't they? Like super specific art directors.
Exactly. And Beato listens to some of these, and he's genuinely impressed, calls some of it shockingly good.
Really,
Yeah.
after trashing the other stuff.
Yeah, he seems quite taken aback by the quality Suno can produce, especially with those detailed prompts guiding it.
That's significant, coming from a musician like him.
It is. And he actually predicts that people will like AI music.
Yeah.
He challenges that idea that we'll only ever want human-made music.
That definitely opens up questions about the future, doesn't it? For musicians, for listeners, for the whole industry. If AI music is genuinely enjoyable.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So, okay, let's try and wrap this up. We've seen this incredible acceleration from DeepMind pushing towards AGI a startling pace.
A future where AI could be deeply integrated, offering huge benefits in science and maybe society.
But also bringing massive questions, huge responsibilities.
Absolutely. The ethical side, the control side, it's critical.
And then in the creative world, with things like these music platforms, AI isn't just mimicking anymore. It's starting to generate stuff that's, well, surprisingly good sometimes.
Yeah, raising new possibilities, but also real challenges for artists, for copyright.
So we've got potential huge breakthroughs in medicine, maybe this radical abundance, alongside worries about misuse and control.
And new creative tools emerging, but questions about human value and the role of artists.
It really feels like progress on both the intellectual front and the creative front is forcing us to rethink things.
Definitely is pushing us to reconsider some fundamental assumptions.
Which kind of leads to a final thought, maybe something for listeners to chew on.
Okay.
Given how fast AI is developing in both these like smart domains and creative ones, how is that going to change how we think about ourselves, about human uniqueness? What's the value of something we create if an AI can make something just as good or even better or just different in areas we thought were uniquely human?
Yeah. What does it mean to be human, and what gives our work significance when machines get this capable?
Exactly. It feels like that's going to be a big question in the years ahead. Lots to think about there.